Good evening, Doctor. I'm so glad you could join us. Oh, you're not ready to lose another one.
She's in the early stages of possession. We still have time.
Okay, so we can still get her back, right?
Do you want to see your daughter? She's down here with us. We all burn here.
All right, welcome back, DBS fans, horror fans, filmmakers, actors, writers, anyone who's trying to make a movie. We have a special episode today because I'm joined with one of my favorite actors, Grace Maddux. Grace has been with us for 3 movies now, and I just gave her a role in another movie, so this is 4 in a row. And as you guys know, I love working with the same actors, and Grace is basically one of my favorite ones. She's always at the top of the list. I tried to get rid of her. I try my best, and she keeps coming back. And there's a reason for that. She's one of the most professional people I've met. The way she breaks down a script, the way that she analyzes scenes, the way she gives me feedback gets better and better and better. So today we're kind of talk about how we work as a director and an actor. There's some tips in there if you're an actor, how to work with a new director, because Grace was new basically for Echoes of Evil, which is coming out very soon. And then each time we got more and more comfortable with each other. She kind of learned the DBS language, learned how to communicate with me, which is very difficult. And we got better with each one. I think it's just a really cool process. So I'll turn it over to Grace. Grace, first of all, thank you for coming on. You're an absolute star. Anytime I could talk to you. Grace is my resident beer pong partner as well. So let's turn over to you. Before you met DBS, give us a little bit of background on you. How did you get into acting?
Yeah. I started when I was like 11 or 12, doing musicals mainly. Because I don't know if it'll show up on the screen. I am 6'1", so I'm pretty tall. So my parents for the longest time were like, "You'll be playing sports, you idiot." Like, no, until I could sign up myself. And so then I signed up, and then it was kind of theater from that moment on. I went to college at University of Evansville for acting, and then I moved to New York City with some of my best friends, and I was auditioning, and like not much was hitting, and it took a while to kind of gain some traction, and just film really started taking off a little more than theater, and so I kind of pivoted and started doing that a little bit more. And like stuff was hitting here and there, and I was doing like shorts and like pilots and what have yous, and then I pre-screened for Echoes of Evil, and then I had an interview with Dylan, and apparently that was the vibe check, and I guess I passed the vibe check, and now here we are, 3 movies later.
And it's absolute history. And honestly, I'm super happy that we passed. And Dylan, as you guys know, Dylan and Tegan do our first round of interviews. And that is basically, can you pass the vibe check? It's just very, like, they are going to try and sell you, to try and make you not take this movie. Because we really want to work with passionate people. And Grace, down the checklist, was good to go. And then I meet with her. Because we went for Echoes of Evil, we had 10,000 auditions. I don't know how many we have for your specific character, but it was definitely in the 3,000 or 4,000s. So we have to take that down. We got to take it down to about 100. And then I send Dylan and Tegan and myself. We kind of split it down and just do the initial vibe check interview to just make sure, you're cool. You're not going to cause us any problems. Cause, I'm putting all my money on the line. If we have issues with actors, it could be a huge problem. Cause if you start making a quarter of the movie and then the actor, turns out that they can't do something, they don't want to do something, or they're just difficult, we don't have the ability to reshoot or recast. So that's a huge problem for us. Grace passed all the vibe checks with them. I interviewed Grace, and she was 100% down. And I always remember my interview with Grace because she was my unanimous number 1. And we really don't have a lot of unanimous number 1s. Usually we have about 8 to 10 people that help me make sure I'm making the right decision. Cause, I know it's kind of crazy, but I do make bad decisions sometimes. And I think we had 8 or 9 people say Grace is number 1, by far the number 1. We had a much more difficult time with the Brad character, the male character, which we picked Stuart because Stuart's also very fantastic, but we did a wide casting for that one as well. But Grace was unanimous down there. She passed the vibe check. I knew she'd fit on set. So then Grace, when you first got the script, because this one's kind of crazy, and I'll preface this by saying Echoes of Evil is sort of like The Exorcist, sort of like The Conjuring. Basically, this couple unearths a Dybbuk box, and a Dybbuk box is a box that holds a demon. And, of course, the male character opens it up like an idiot, and all hell breaks loose in the house. So this is kind of a crazy script, and one thing that I said to Grace was, you're going to have to play a demon, which is crazy already. So, Grace, you got the part. I think I texted you, called you, or sent you an email, and I sent you the script. What were your first impressions of this script?
Right. I think my first impressions were it's like nuts. It's a little crazy. And I was a little nervous because I was for sure that I didn't pass the vibe check because I was up front that like, I don't like horror. I don't watch horror. I've like never really seen a horror movie. And then they were like, and you're cool to be covered like head to toe in blood and play a demon. And I was like, well, I guess so. I guess we will. And so yeah, like it was like a really long script, but it was very interesting. And like the character was really cool because she was like, I get the whole time she's very like open and very vulnerable, whether she's like the demon or herself. So I guess I was really nervous because it was also my first like feature movie length. And I just really wanted to do a good job because everyone here was like friends and cool. And like, I wanted to do a good job, but I also really wanted to fit in and like make set stay fun between all these friends. And I don't know, not be like the odd one out.
No, immediately. And I knew because Tegan usually is the resident vibe checker. And she's like, you'll love this girl. And I've worked with so many actors now that I could tell right away. And I was like, Grace is going to be fantastic. Not going to have to worry about you. And we had the all-star team because we have Stuart back. And Stuart also is a vibe himself. Just in general, Stuart is a vibe. But talk to me a little bit. I thought you brought up something that was kind of cool. The difference between being in a short and being in a feature. What is the prep process? What is the mentality? And talk a bit about how difficult a feature is versus a short.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a lot of time, right? Because a short, I think the longest short I shot was like 3 days, I think. And you do a lot in those 3 days, but it ends up being like 15 minutes. And even if you start back to front or wherever, it's easy to keep track of. And that was something we ran into with Echoes because when you shoot a movie, like today we're going to shoot pages 6, 38, 40, like, you're all over the place. So you have to keep track of like mentally where I am, like, am I half possessed? Am I not possessed? Am I like where you are emotionally? And then also on a set where we don't have like a full costume people, we all are like, wait, were you in that shirt? Wait, but it's day 2, but you're waking up from night 1 where you were wearing that shirt, like, and it's like the spider web of it all, of keeping track of all that was very different, like so fun, but like very different. And then like the length of the shoot, we do like, we shot overnight, which was kind of fun because then you can have an energy drink at midnight. And we're all like, I don't know, I feel like I'm so bad. I'm being so bad. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just kind of like anything goes, it kind of feels like, which also helps when you're like playing a demon for the first time and everything feels like a little bit like we're not supposed to be up so late. Like, oh my gosh.
Wardrobe was a problem with this one. I do remember that is coming back to me now. We shot this movie about a year ago, so it's slowly coming back to me. Because I had messed up and I had put day 0 as like a wardrobe. I think it was like they move into the house and then that's quote unquote day 0. If you're ever doing that, don't do that. It confused everybody and then it confused myself. And I think we only had one wardrobe problem in that whole movie that I think we had to fix. I can't remember. I think there's one, but we fixed it or someone caught it and we redid it or something.
Yeah. Because it's waking up from what, like, it was day 1. We were doing half days then because you needed a night outfit, but then you would put a hoodie on when you woke up, but then I hadn't packed enough, so we were like raiding Stuart's closet.
You put Stuart's hoodie on, which is a fantastic idea and it works perfectly. But yeah, don't do day 0. And honestly, I think one thing that we've learned, a lot of our stuff now is one night and we do a lot of one night movies. It's just a lot easier. Continuity is something you struggle with a lot as an indie filmmaker. And especially what she just said and like where she is in the possession cycle, which was kind of crazy as well. But I thought we did a pretty good job. Coordination with wardrobe is something we definitely need to focus on. And I go as far as like taking pictures and then stapling on the script next time if we had to, just to make sure the actors are, you know, where they need to be. Because if this is taking place over, I think like 4 or 5 days. So they needed like 4 or 5 outfits. It was kind of crazy. So let's start with, you know, going into it, the spiel to her to make sure she was cool was like, you're going to be covered in blood. And you have to be a demon. And talk to everyone about going in the makeup chair and being basically demonized by the very talented Tegan for 3 to 4 hours. I think maybe 6 nights, because I think this is a 9-day shoot. It's 4 or 5 days she had to be in there. What was that like? Were you ever like, oh man, I signed up for this and I shouldn't have?
Like, kind of never. Right, Tegan is so crazy talented that, well, one, we like bonded. It was like whenever you watch it's not slow-mo, fast motion, I guess, of us like she does my whole thing. You can just see our mouths like da 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 because we've just got so much to say. And so we got really tight, which was so awesome. And then just watching her do her thing is so cool. And like when I got home, I was telling my friends that like I'm not really like a selfies person, but I kept taking pictures of myself in my demon makeup because I was like, I feel so beautiful. Like something about like I couldn't stop looking at myself. And my friend put it really sweet, which was like an artist has done their art on you, like you're her walking like art piece. And so there were times she does like oil my hair down, which like does sensory wise is kind of like, oh man, like come on. But otherwise, like I kind of loved it. And then we had bright yellow contacts and blood, and she's got like scarring and boils down. And at one point my arms are like burned up and I'm pulling thread out of my thigh. And like, it's so cool that it really like, I guess what we were talking about like before is someone who doesn't like horror playing a demon. Her makeup was so cool and intense that I almost need to give all my props to Tegan because just standing still, like talking like this in the full demon is like awful. Like we would be at our end of night recaps and Dylan or Brenda would be like, Grace, you have to stop. Cause I would just be like, but gross out and it's just horrible to look at. So she just made it so like anything I did in that like gorgeous makeup was freaky and weird. And also when you like so much don't look like yourself, I feel like it's a lot easier to just go for it and be weird and different and like, because it almost like isn't you in there. It's so, you look different. I don't know. So for me, it was just very easy to just kind of go crazy. And it was great because I think that's where we really like clocked in our communication was like at 4 a.m. and we've been shooting for 12 hours and it's like a demon scene and we're freaking out. And we just got so like tight about it that Brendan can just go, something else. No. I'd be like, okay. And like do it again. Like we just got very, like everyone just like, and understood we got to get this done. And it was just kind of magical. I know that was a makeup question. We really took a travel.
Hey, I like it. What was it like seeing yourself in the mirror for the first time as a full demon?
That I like couldn't stop laughing because I was like, it looks like I don't look like myself. It was so strange, but so cool. And right, I like felt very beautiful. And I just kept telling Tegan, like, how did you do that? And I was showing my friends pictures and they were like, that's so cool that they gave you like cheek implants. And I was like, no, she just like carved me to the gods. So I looked like skeletal, weird, like boils down my chest. Like it was so cool. And I'm so glad I like said yes, because of course I was a little nervous because y'all are very, very good about making sure everyone's cool on set. So they had asked me, like Brendan, Dylan, Tegan, so many times if you're cool with blood and contacts and grimy stuff that I was like, I've already said yes. Like, what are they getting me to agree to? Like, and because you kept saying like, so you're like, we want you to be so cool. I was like, yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. But like DBS is so, I think, awesome with that. Like, and then there was like a scene in a bathtub, and Brendan was like, you're like, as long as you're cool with it, if we get up to like right before I say action and you decide you're not cool with it, we have another scene, we'll flip that. We get our best stuff out of our actors when they're comfy. So like you do what's comfy for you. So then yeah, Tegan the whole time doing makeup was like showing me her thing and like, are you cool with that? Are you cool if I stick it here? Are you cool if I touch you here? Like, so yeah, it was all like so easy and so fun, and like everyone was checking in and making sure everyone's cool, that it rocks.
Yeah, I mean, we're all for actors' comfort at DBS, and I also want to make sure that you understand what you're signing up for when you do this.
Yeah.
So when we got the script, and I started working with you, basically you had to play 3 different characters. The first one was the girlfriend or the wife of Stuart, who just the newlyweds moved into a house, probably bought a bigger house than they should have, high interest rates, in this economy.
Exactly.
And then you kind of get sick after like the initial possession. You have to play like a sick person. And then you have to shift to the demon, which is just a crazy transformation. And one thing I had brought up with you was like, we want to make sure that number one, we're aligned on each of 3 of these phases because they do represent the acts, like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And number 2, that's a little bit difficult, is we do shoot out of order. So there will be some days where you will be demon, and then the next day you'll be loving wife of, the male character. So we really had to lock in on all 3 of these things. So, and I'm trying to really remember how we kind of did it. I know we had talked to you about, let's go for the first act of just being the lovely, rootable, because one thing we struggle with is making characters likable, and they have to look like a couple, and you've never really met Stuart. So how did we really work on that? And you had brought a lot of life to this character through small little interactions and stuff like that. And how did you work with Stuart to kind of bring out, hey, that we want to root for you guys?
Yeah, I think it's another, like, a shout out to Stuart. Like, he's so fun and like such a great scene partner that we went over like boundaries, like what you're cool with, what you're not cool with. And like, I think just like little things I was trying to think of that, I don't know, that you might not think, just like a touch, or like there's a moment where like, I think I'm freaking out or something, and we asked if we could just like hug. Cause I think a lot, like, I don't know, to show that you're close with someone, I feel like a touch is always like the clearest way to do that, because I wouldn't really touch a stranger, but my husband, I would hug, or I would touch a leg, or I would like, he's on the phone and he's really upset, and I would just like, hey, like how we doing? But I think we got along really well on set. So I think that also is like super, when you like cameras cut and you can be like,
No, I think it was great. So then the other thing that I want to kind of bring up was that in the movie, your mother passed away by like Alzheimer's, which is just a primal fear of mine that I've done a lot with the movies. Or I think it was Alzheimer's or cancer, brain cancer. It was one of those 2.
Yeah.
And then I thought that was kind of impactful. And I don't know, I feel like you kind of ran with that idea and fleshed it out a little bit more. I can't really remember, but I know you had that. And then I know you had like your teacher was the actual photograph in there. So this went from like a small little plot device to something that we could really use later on in the movie, because the demon is basically bringing this stuff up, which is really, really cool. Talk about how you kind of fleshed out those ideas, or how we kind of went with that to give it just a little bit more of an emotional punch for your character to have something that she's still going through. And it was also, that's the one thing I want to bring up. It was the guilt aspect of how they got this house was from her mom's passing. It was in her inheritance. And so it kind of puts Stuart's character in a little bit of a weird spot, but also you're in a little bit of a weird spot. And it just gives us just a little bit more tension to kind of play with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like it's very helpful because we ended up with the Dybbuk box, and the demon needed to latch to someone who was like emotionally weak. And so like she's going through this time with her mom, and I think that's why initially I had said that all three phases of her are very like vulnerable, because she's always very, it feels like open, like she's like looking through her pictures and is seeing her mom and crying, like relying on her husband, and she's the one who kind of notices things are weird and is saying to like, should we, I don't know about this, and like voicing her like concerns and whatnot. And I feel like that's it's helpful because, right, we want to root for her. So I think having her be very like emotional and like upfront about like, I'm grieving right now, was helpful in the beginning. And then when she's sick and we kind of learn what's going down, and that she was chosen because she was vulnerable, that was helpful, because I think we switch gears into like, she's angry a little bit. Like she's upset that like, I had to go through this and I lost my mom, and this thing is like taking advantage of me. And like and then also like, I love you, but like my husband, you didn't listen to me. And like no one, and like it becomes a little more active. And then once we then go into the demon, that I think the loss of her emotional side and being so like flat and like, I don't care about anything, is like a nice roller coaster to take her on. And it's just a very clear, like, because I know we had talked a lot about, we need to see Liz number 1 in the 3 Liz's, but Liz number 3, demon, also has to be like the opposite of Liz 1.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll tell you what, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how you kind of built this character, because one thing that we do struggle with, and I think newer actors struggle with, is your characters are always going to be put in a situation that, especially in horror, that's shitty, right? They're just like, that's what's going to happen. Shitty situations with actors, or not with their characters, not actors.
Yeah.
Put actors in good spots. But one thing that I see a lot in indie films, and if you look at all of our other movies that when we first started, which are all free on YouTube right now, you should check them out to see how far we've come. But basically, you can put a character in a situation and then they complain about everything, right? And then you're like, well, I hate this person because they're complaining about everything. And I think really for the first time, your character was grieving. They were in a tough situation. Their husband opens a Dybbuk box, which is just terrible. But I still, and I've watched this cut, Grace has not watched the cut, but she's done a very good job of basically, you didn't complain at all. You're just like, how do I deal with this? And I'm still trying to figure out, again, kind of like reverse engineer how we did that. But I wanted to go, did you put any thought into not complaining or coming from a place that's a little bit more likable, if that makes sense? Or is that just natural?
Yeah, I'm just really likable. I'm just kind of awesome. But I think we talk a little bit in acting school, right? Like the idea of like complaining or being like, whoa, like no one really likes that. And even if you're playing like a villain, you have to find out why you like yourself. And I think that was also maybe a testament to like Stuart and I, and like maybe why that relationship really works, because right, I didn't want to complain because I know he's really stressed out and he feels bad about the inheritance, and he didn't want to stress me out because I'm feeling guilty about my mom. And so we're both, I feel like, in that thing where couples are kind of going through a rough time, but they're both trying to be strong for each other, and like, but they're also relying on each other. But right, there's no, I think, no need to complain, because in theory, like, we have this wonderful house, and like at the end of the day, I have you, honey. Like, and I think, I hope that really worked out.
No, it did. And I think what you just kind of brought up, I think, is the difference, is that both you and Stuart's characters were strong characters. Like, I think the complaining when it comes from a weakness is what people don't like, but you are trying to actively figure out, okay, this box opened up, bad things are happening. Why is this stuff happening? Right. And Stuart's like also trying to comfort you. He's like, well, she's going through a hard time. This could be more mental issues, but I'm going to try and figure it out. We have scenes of him like researching and trying to help her. And then we have scenes of you basically researching with the Dybbuk boxes. So it's two people trying to figure out and help each other to make them feel better, but they're just coming from, Stuart might think you're just grieving or just like having some, you know, it's like you're seeing things or some hallucinations and stuff, because there's a lot of like dream scares and stuff. And then, you know, you're trying to figure out, you're seeing too many signs that this could be something weird. And I think that as long as you have two characters that are moving forward, so this is a good writing tip, have them go in the right direction in a strong way. Don't have them be like what Grace said, which is like, woe is me, this is all happening to me, where things are coming at them, but they're not doing anything. I think that's where the characters kind of get a little bit annoying. You guys did a fantastic job. So let's talk about the second half of this, or the second act of this movie, where you are starting to get possessed a little bit. And we needed you to get a little weak, because basically the demon, once it gets inside of you, it has to break down your body and to fully possess. That's the lore of the story we had. So how did you go from the first act where you're moving around, moving boxes, energetic, getting groceries, coming out everywhere, to one of my favorite scenes was when you actually bring in the demonologist and you're sitting at the table and you're just like, once again, shout out to Tegan. You're just looking like a little bit wrecked. But what was in your mind when you're breaking down that, to make sure there's a contrast from first act Liz to second act Liz?
Yeah. Right, like the hard thing is like is like trying to make it active. Like, woe is me is just like, it's boring and nobody cares. Like, so you want to be active. So I was like, if I was really sick, but I really don't want my husband to worry about me, I think I'm going to try and keep doing everything, and I just can't. And it feels kind of like, I can't remember an acting teacher said this, or it's just like a silly thing. Like, when you're trying to cry, you shouldn't be thinking like, cry, 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 cry. It's much more helpful to be like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Because that's what you would really, no one's like, I really want to cry. In real, you would be like holding, and that usually helps you also get there. So it's like that fighting the inevitable feels a little more active and interesting to watch. So like, if you're really frail and sick, but you're still trying to like pick up the groceries, and it just is even harder to watch than if you just stayed on the couch, because you're trying so hard to appear regular, which is making it, you know, look more like, obviously you're not okay, and you're even in your sickness, you're like trying to like, no, see, I'm okay, I'm just feeling a little weird, and like you keep doing your thing, which just feels a little more like active, a more fun choice. And then once I think the demonologist came in, it like felt very like angry, right? Like, I've been so nice, and I worked so hard, and my mom died, and this is a terrible time, and this stupid demon is targeting me because I am like, and it just felt very like when you're like, at the world, which then kind of helped because I feel like kind of right and then near into the end, like right before I think the final, when Stuart and I kind of yelled after the twine pull, is when I feel like she's kind of getting angrier and angrier, and then that's kind of when we snap, and then that's like a different Liz. And I feel like post the snap is when we're like, we go full like.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely plays. I definitely think anger was the right emotion to kind of bring out that transition, because we want to make it clear. The one thing is, I just don't want people to be like, well, is she possessed? I don't know. That would not be a good reaction. Even if you're in full makeup, sometimes, you know, some people just need a little bit more coaxing to understand things. But so how did shooting overnight every single night help into that? Was that make it a little bit easier to, cause, and this is just something for people who are making their own films, or if you're directing, scheduling is very, very important. I really tried to make sure that early Liz, first act Liz, energetic, bright morning Liz was done the first couple days of the shoot. When we were shooting in the morning, when we didn't have these overnights, when everyone wasn't too tired. Then the second act, we scheduled in the middle of the shoot. In the third act, which I did make a mistake of having it at the end there, because we did rush a little bit. But I think it kind of helped, you know, we started shooting 12 hours, and when you shoot overnights, I don't care if you're getting 8 hours of sleep, it's still hard. So how did that play into it at all? Make it a little easier for you to just be like, oh man, I really am tired?
Oh yeah, totally. And it's kind of the fun, like when you're up a little too late and you kind of get a little giggly, like a little delirious. I feel like we all kind of get there near the end of the shoot of kind of like just you're a little bit out of your head. But that honestly was pretty helpful because you are at a point where you're like, if I finish this, I can wrap. You need me to be crazy? Let's be crazy. Like, let's just go for and it's also very nice as someone like I had never traveled to be on a set. And so I was like on the phone with my parents and I was like, what if they're like free? What if they're going to like take me away? And they didn't, obviously, but like, it's really nice to like, warm up with like regular scenes and like get to know everyone and get super comfortable with everyone and then get a little more vulnerable and be freaky and weird and like, and by this point we're all friends and we know like no one's gonna be judgy or weird that like we're going there.
Yeah. And I always say, we always try and warm up. I mean, you and Stuart right off the bat were just pros, but I've worked with a lot of actors that they just need some time, you know. If you're newer, the difference I see between newer and seasoned actors is seasoned actors can come right on set and be ready to go. And that's just a reps thing. They've been hours and hours and hours. They'll come in and do a lot of commercial work where they come in, they got to get it done in a day and then they leave. For newer actors and ones who don't have all those hours behind camera, which is fine, you know, we all start somewhere, flying into a new state, coming on set, seeing, you know, us all go together. And Grace was she was the outsider basically, because Stuart I've worked with before. I've worked with some of the other people, the people from the intro I've worked with before. The demonologist I didn't work with before, but he had like a smaller role as a side character. So it is very intimidating, you know, for Grace to come in here and do this. So if you are another actor or if, you know, you're scheduling these, easy stuff or get them moving. We put the moving scene there first because they can get in there, they can move around, loosen up a little bit. Because also, I'm a nervous wreck on these things as well. I do not like shooting movies. I like making movies and doing them, but like these shoots, I am so stressed out constantly. And I have to shoot these. I gotta I always remember the thermostat scene, which is the first shot of the movie, which is trash. I shot that so poorly. But it still came out well because I have enough coverage. But I just remember being like, man, I got to get it together. Like I got to get my stuff. Cause this was the first movie back from found footage. I was still stuck in found footage mode. I hadn't shot a cinematic movie in a year. So I had to get my shit together basically. But it's just always good. We always try and start with easy stuff. With this one, it's a move-in scene, a little wake-up scene. Then they went out in front of the house. So it just helped everyone kind of get into a groove, especially myself. So now let's talk about going into demon mode, because this was my favorite part of this. I'm a huge Exorcist fan. I'm a huge horror movie fan. I will tell you, most of the people who I work with don't watch horror. And Grace is an example of them. So here's what you do if you're a horror director and you need to basically explain scary things. Because my goal as a director is to take what's in my head and put it in Grace's head as quickly as I possibly can. The sooner we can get on the same page, the better. Because then we can start the creative process of elaborating, and we'll kind of go into that with how we kind of play with the demon. The best way to do that, everyone's visual. If I could show them how a pop scare is done, if I could show them how, you know, makeup's done or anything like that, it gets us on the same page right away. So I don't remember what I did with you, Grace, but I probably sent you pictures of The Exorcist and probably little clips of demons where I was like, okay, you know, this gives us a starting point, because I was very precious about how I wanted this demon to kind of play, but I also didn't know. And it's a really good story on how Grace did it and kind of created this demon character, because it was completely not what I wanted, but it was also an example of something that she did that was a million times better than what I had in my head. And it's so fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's so good that I brought her back for a movie called The Devil's Hostage. And I was like, I really don't want the same demon. And then she started doing it, the same demon again. I was like, all right, I can't not do the same demon. It's just too good. So I can't really remember how we attacked this, but if you can remember, I know I probably sent you some clips. We had like a general idea of what it was, but I can't really remember if we just had a lot of variations of stuff that we were going to try and test out, see if you have a better, my brain cells are just gone from that set.
Yeah, that was a crazy one. Yeah, I think, yeah, you sent pictures and then you sent some clips of like, right, like, because, right, I'm starting at 0. You were like, this is a pop scare. This is kind of what we're doing here. These are like 6 examples of like demons, of like child demons, of like all the different things. And like, and you were like, right, well, like, once we get on set, we'll find it, we'll figure it out. But we did spend a lot of pre-production, like, talking about it. But it is something weird that it's hard to, like, right, talk through it until you're, like, on set saying the lines that's either right or wrong. But, yeah, there was, like, a little bit of, like, biblical research we did. Like, it was, right, it's been so long now.
Yeah, I think like when I was kind of going through it, it was like the options that we had were, is it going to be really aggressive? Is it just going to yell? Is it going to be like more playful and fun and sarcastic and childlike? Or is it just going to be a menace and just mean and say all this mean stuff? And those are like the variations that we had where it was like more serious. It was more, you know, just saying terrible things to all the characters in there. Because in my mind, I really wanted to be a contrast of your first character. Mm-hmm. And, you know, in my head, it was that, you know, it was going to be mean. It was going to be aggressive. It's going to be like The Exorcist. Like it has like quips and stuff, but it's still like mean. The way she plays it though is very childlike and just the best way to describe it's sassy. And it's so fantastic because it's so unique to what I've seen anything else do. And it's just so scary that something is it, because you do have like points where you just get pissed and you're just like, and it's just like, it's so good. So I think, I don't know, we probably had something on there, but do you remember like, I can't even remember like when we started to go through that. It just kind of came naturally, I guess, through some of the stuff we did. Cause I don't remember being like, no, I don't like that. I like that. It was like, you started with that. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic.
Right. Yeah. I think that was another step in like learning our communication. Cause we went in and being like, just like do it once. And then the next time, like 180, do something crazy different. And we were like, I think until we started kind of finding. And then whenever you were like, love that I would try that, like a little variation. But right, I think it's just another like, shout out Brendan. Like, I don't know if you can tell, Brendan is very sassy. He just wrote really sassy lines. And so I was just doing the lines. It's all him. Don't let him tell you
anything. It's funny because that's exactly what I didn't really want. And you kind of brought it out. But I mean, it's something that's really kind of cool. And I think she just brought up a really good point of like, you don't really know until you see it. Like everyone has like this, when you're reading the script, you have the characters that you visualize. The actors have the characters that they visualize. Anyone who's helping you write has, you know, their variations and stuff, but there's so much. And this is what really makes filmmaking really cool is that, you know, I'm giving Grace a vision of what I want, but what she's giving me is better than what I want, which is kind of, you know, it's really, really cool. Cause I could be like, oh, wow, this is something I didn't see. This is something great. And, you know, we kind of go back and forth. And if you ever see like a scene, whenever you kind of do a scene, the first couple of times, especially if you're blocking, especially if it's a crazy scene, the first couple of times are rough. And you're just like, all right, like, how do we make this better? You know, in my head, I'm like, this is not good, but I'm not going to say that. I'm just like, all right, let's try and work this. Let's try and do this. Let's try and move around, you know, this. And we kind of just chisel away. It's like a marble statue, chiseling away. And then you finally get it. And like everyone, you can tell when you get it because the whole room is like, whoa, like this is it. And then like, there it is. There we go. We got it. And I think that's kind of like how, you know, we did with the demon is that once she started doing the sassy demon, everyone's like, this is incredible. And I remember Dylan came up to me. He's like, this, how she's playing is great. And he's like, please tell me you like it. I'm like, I think it's fantastic. So I think that's kind of cool because I don't give a lot of direction. I mean, I'll steer the ship in the right direction, but I give, you know, Grace a lot of freedom because she's very good at ad-libbing. You did a lot of ad-libbing in there, a lot of stuff because she knew the character. And I think that takes a lot of talent. But did you have a lot of fun playing that demon?
Yeah, like absolutely. Because like you're very open to whatever, and then I was in the full demon makeup, which was sick, and like once right, like it's lovely and scary that Brendan, like sometimes he'll just be like, okay, do it again. And you're like, so was that like the worst thing you've ever seen, or do you like love it? You just gotta like, well, we're trying it again. Um, and so it was really fun because it was just right. Anything goes, whatever is cool. And I just hope and pray that if he hates it and it's unusable, he'll tell me. Otherwise, like run free, little deer, like do what you will.
Yeah, and that's a lot of stuff that I kind of bring up now is that basically like, hey, I don't give a lot of notes because most of my job is pre-production. And this is like why I felt really good with Grace, because we talked about this so much. We met once or twice a week for 6 weeks, 7 weeks to really get this character down. And, my goal as a director is that if I don't show up, can Grace direct herself to make this movie? And I 100% had no doubt in my mind that you could. And so I want to let her play in the playground of being an actor and getting a really good performance and doing all this crazy stuff. And I'm just guiding that ship, and it's all slight little, steering. Because normally we don't have a lot of time to really sit down and break down and be like, oh, your facial reactions on this are not good. And there's like all this stuff. It's like, let her go. I hired her for a reason. She's very, very talented, and she's giving me something better than what I had in my head, which is super rare in indie film. So we just kind of let her go. I do want to talk to you a little bit about, the bathtub scene, because I thought that was really interesting. It was something unique for us, but it turned out really, really well. And I really want to credit you for just being number one, really cool. But I think it's also a learning lesson for a lot of indie films. So basically we had a bathtub scene where she is taking a bath and gets submerged by the demon, and then pops up, and that is like the actual transformation of the demon. For us, we don't do nudity because we lose all our ad revenue if you have nudity. And number two, like, I just don't want to have to deal with that. That is a further down the line in our career stuff if we have to do it. There's no need for nudity or anything in there, but it is a bathtub scene. And so I kind of brought it up as in, hey, I'm going to pitch this. And at any time you can tell me no. And to your testament, you seem to be pretty open about it. But talk to us a little bit about that, because I think it's kind of an interesting subject on communication and just making sure we're all on the same page for indie people, because I think that's something that a lot of indie sets suffer from is communication issues. So you want to talk about how we kind of approached that, how you kind of felt about it, and how we kind of did it, because it did turn out absolutely fantastic.
Oh, love. That's so exciting. Yeah, I think what was so awesome about like Brendan and DBS is they are very communicative right off the bat. Like, here's our phone number, email, any questions, like, please let us know. And so we had talked almost the whole script, and I was reading it again, and I was like, oh shoot, like the tub scene. And as like someone who hadn't been had to deal with any of this, it was really nice that my first time having to come to a director and be like, hey, I just wanted to like talk about this. I'm not saying no to it. I just wanted to like learn the logistics of it. And I was so like nervous to ask, because I was like, I don't want him to think I'm like critiquing his like his art or anything. Like, and he was so like, oh my God. Oh, okay. So like, here's how I'm thinking. This is the shot we would do. You would be in like a strapless thing with shorts, like totally covered. We would also do a closed set. Like, and it was just all the right answers. Like, okay, cool. And then he was also like you're not here. You were like, if you're cool until I'm about to say action, and then you're like, actually, I don't want to do this. He was like, I've got an alternate scene written. We'll put something else in. Like, right. They wanted me to be so totally comfortable. And it was so, like, it was just so easy. And it was just Brendan, Dylan, and Tegan. Like, Tegan had my little water bottle because it was really hot. And it was like such an easy, chill thing. Yeah, like, it was just such a lovely communication of like, this is exactly what I'm thinking, and when we get there, we're not really going to change it up. Like, I'm not going to throw anything at you at this day. Like, this is the one scene that like A, B, C, D is set and it's not changing unless you don't feel cool, and then scrap it. Like, and then please don't feel weird about it. Like, only what makes you comfortable, which was like so cool. And that's like all I needed to hear was like that everything's gonna be chill and cool and no one's trying to like be weird.
No, and I really appreciate you doing that, because I messed up big time. Here's a good story. I don't know if you ever heard this story. Is that in the first script I sent you, I think that the bathtub scene was added, right? So I think I sent you the original script, right? And then I accidentally sent the script with the bathtub scene in it. And I was going to talk to you first and just be like, hey, I have this idea for this scene that I think would be really cool, but you have to be comfortable with it. That didn't happen because, and this is just me, and I am so thankful, Grace, that you were cool, because this is a terrible mistake by me. So basically, when we're writing the scripts, I'm talking to actors. I update every 3 days. I send it off to the actors, right? So they're constantly getting new variations of scripts. So stuff that we talk to, we do a Zoom. I update the script with the stuff that they do. I write in their ideas, and we go from there. The bathtub scene stuck in there before I could talk to Grace, which is a huge problem. And I just remember her, I think you emailed and you're like, what is this? Like, I didn't know about this. I was like, oh my God. And I think I called you, or like, I was like, emergency Zoom. Like this. Yeah, it's like, oh my God. But, you know, I think it's a testament to just listen to that out, because you could be like, what the heck is that? Because in our pitch meetings, when we're talking to, you know, the actors, I'm like, there's no nudity or anything like that in any of our stuff. And then obviously she didn't have an understanding of how we were going to shoot this. Because it's basically just her head in bubbles. That's all it is. But if you read it, you don't know what that is. So that was kind of interesting, but I remember having a panic attack. I think I was like running around Lake Eola, and I'm checking like my emails, and it came up. I was like, oh my God. And I had to sprint like a mile back to my place to be like, we got to do disaster control. But, you know, it's a testament to you. You're really cool. The scene turned out really good. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, the end of this movie. I made a huge mistake, man. We're just talking about my mistakes, left and right, but this is good. You learn from my stuff here. Is that I didn't realize how long it would take you to be in the demon makeup chair. It's 3 or 4 hours, like every single night. Mm-hmm. While she was in the demon makeup chair, I should have scheduled stuff with Stuart or stuff that didn't require Grace. And I didn't do that. So for the 3 or 4 hours that she was in the makeup chair, we weren't doing anything. We were just sitting there, which is a huge problem, because at the end of the shoot, we were a little bit delayed. We had the scene with the demonologist took a little bit longer than we wanted. So we had to start rushing a little bit. And I remember the last day was kind of crazy. It's kind of hectic. This is one thing you really don't want to do, because the minute you start rushing, you know, you have to start to sacrifice some things. So I want to talk to you, Grace, as it kind of started to go faster. How does that make an actor feel? And you can be completely honest on this one here, because I'm trying to tell you guys, scheduling is going to be the number one thing. Communication and scheduling is basically how you do all this stuff. But once you start rushing, I have to start sacrificing things, and actors start to go faster. How does that make you feel as an actor? And, you know, we got it all done. It was all fantastic. We got very lucky, but I'm just saying, for myself, having rushed a lot, let's get the actor's perspective of when things start to go fast.
Yeah, it got a little stressful. I think y'all do a very good job on set of like being very respectful, but we could tell like tones were clipped. People were like, let's get going. And we also, like, most things were shot at night. So, and it's like 5:30 and the sun rises in like 15 minutes, and we've got like 2 scenes we got to shoot. So there was a lot of like sprinting around, like, and someone's setting up the set, and while someone's and then we also were talking about our costuming issue. So I'm like looking at the script and really like, so what was I wearing during, and like, so you're and then by the time everyone's sitting and it's action, you are kind of like, right, okay, wait, where in the script am I? What am I saying? Like, who, and I'm with Stuart, and what are we, and my blocking, and like people, so it is like, it's maybe not conducive to like the best product. And then we were, right, I think there was a moment, like the sun was cresting, and you and I were going back about like, if this was a dream pop scare or a real pop scare. And someone was like, well, get the script. And we were like, no, see, it's up. Because then you had to see me it was if I needed to be seen running away, or we could just cut back to waking up, or like, so it was definitely fun, and it was kind of all done with like a but then it got to, I think because we were so frazzled, I was in like half demon or something, took it off to do it, but then we didn't realize we had another half demon scene to do. So I was in half demon, wiped it all off, got back, but then there's also grease in my hair, so I had to rinse my hair. I don't think we had a hair dryer, so I was like whipping my hair, trying to dry my hair because it had to be not greasy, and then I had to go back to greasy, back to this. So it definitely was, and then I think we all tried to clean, and then halfway through cleaning, we all like on any cert, we were like passed out. It was crazy. It was fun, but it was crazy.
Yeah, it was, and this is, knock on wood, this is the last time we really messed up. We didn't really mess up. Like, honestly, out of all the things, it really was not that bad.
Right.
It was more fast than what I usually like to go, especially because we had like the climax on that scene. We really wanted to give it, the time it needs to go. The good news was that whole part of the script was very fast paced and kind of crazy. And it was like a lot of moving around. Like she was chasing him down and like running down the stairs and stuff. So it kind of helped us out. But yeah, I was like out there in the yard, with Stuart, and the sun's like coming up, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta like cut in tight on him so you don't see the sun popping over the thing. But I mean, it's just really, you gotta schedule everything, because a couple hours here, a couple hours here. Even if you lose an hour a day, if you're shooting for 9-10 days like we usually do, you're losing 10 hours. That's a whole other day of shooting that you're losing. So it was a testament to Grace for keeping it together, because that's the other thing. Everyone gets testy. Like, everyone's tired at this point. You're 10 days in, the finish line is right there. You're really trying to just get this thing done. Your body's sore, but at the same time, you really want to make sure you're getting the best product. And I remember, like, I think it was like when you stab the climax, we couldn't get like the blood to work or anything like that. And I was like, oh my goodness. But it all worked out. I'm just saying, like, if you guys are making a film, scheduling, the minute that you start rolling, your most precious asset is not money, it's time. All the time. You really got to make sure you're getting it there. But Grace, I appreciate you for sticking through us when we went there, because, and I did want to talk about all three of your movies in this one, but we're already at like 50 minutes now. So,
Oh my God.
yeah, let's talk about when you finished Echoes of Evil, the confidence boost that you had for going through that. And, like, what was it? Did your perspective change on acting, of being like, all right, I did a DBS shoot, I could do anything?
It was like my first like big set, and I did leave because, right, y'all were so nice and very like sweet to me, but I was like, oh, they probably like tell all their actors that, like, not even that, like, I bet it was fine. But it was like really sweet, and it was a really good exercise, and just like being kind of wild and crazy. And now that it's coming up, like being released, I'm a little more nervous because I don't know, in my head it was kind of just for us, and now like people are gonna see it, and I'm like, I don't know about that, but I'll have to be okay with it. So we're gonna see. But yeah, it was great. Y'all are so complimentary. Y'all are so sweet. Like,
well, Grace was so good, because I think about 2 months later, I sent her an email saying, hey, you want to be in another movie?
hey.
And this was, our second movie together, and we could kind of go into communication, knowing our style the second time. But, I talked to her a little bit about just being in front of camera and having reps and doing something crazy like a full feature. I could see Grace's performance improving, and she already came in and she's fantastic. But from day one to the last day, the improvement in that, and then doing a whole nother movie to see her just relax and get into it, and really, like, the improvement is crazy good. But we had to shoot another movie. We're doing a Shapeshifter movie. In this one, we shot Echoes in April, and we shot the Shapeshifter in August. And I always wanted Grace back. Like, you were my number one. I wrote that script with Grace in mind. But we do have distribution. We have producers, reps. We have people who, always want me to kind of basically try and work with newer actors so we don't have the same faces over and over again. My philosophy is I like to work with 60-70% of people I've worked with before, and bring on 30% new ones just because I have familiarity with them. I don't have to worry with them. I know what's going on. So in this case, I was like, hey, I got a girl that could crush this. I was like, they're like, all right, well, let me see. I had to put together a little demo reel for you, from Echoes. And they're like, oh, this is fantastic. We'll get her. And Matt Pearl was the one that we basically brought in, was the new kid on the block.
Matt Pearl.
But let's talk about, basically the second time working with the director and like our communication. And I get a little more blunt. Most of my emails and texts and everything are a little blunt, but she understands that now. So let's talk a little bit about, our communication the second time through and how you kind of, you're like, oh, okay, I can elaborate. I have more freedom this time.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Like, I think I mentioned before, I was really worried about like treading on your like artistic toes and like what you would feel is like too much of like suggestions or like what I think about the character, what things should happen. And then kind of by the second, especially by the third, it was like, okay, like whatever you think, whatever you like want to say, like shoot it out. It's all cool. And then when you like do a take and you're like screaming and crying in the woods and Brendan says nothing, you're fine. That's actually great.
Well, I think it's kind of cool, and it's always still, I'm really struggling. I'm always still like trying to figure this out. And I think it's just nothing that's really going to ever hit is that when I first work with somebody, my whole thing is, listen, I'm not precious to any of this, right? We're making a ton of movies. This is not my baby. I haven't been building this thing for 30 years. Like, we're writing these things in like a couple months and we're shooting them. I'm learning from it and we're trying to get better with each movie. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, if any and all ideas are good, I can say that to a new actor and they're going to be, this guy's full of shit. They don't want to go on my artistic vision. Like, and also my dialogue is a lot of placeholder dialogue because I really like to let the actors talk naturally. And no one really kind of gives feedback, but the second time, they get there. And then the third time is even better. And, Grace will kind of bring that up. But I think the second time you really kind of started sending me the paragraphs and the pages of like notes and stuff, because we wanted to go with the Shapeshifter movie. It's more of a thriller. It's sort of like a missing person thriller. And we had a very strong female lead. And I had seen that, and why I wanted you for this one was because I saw your strength in Echoes, but you didn't get to really run with it. And in this one, you kind of did. So, what were your thoughts from Liz to, I don't remember what your other character's name was in the Shapeshifter movie?
Logan.
From Liz to Logan, when you're kind of looking at those, because I didn't want you to play the same character. You did a great job of not playing the same character. What was kind of going through your head, if you can remember, how you kind of broke those down?
Yeah, I think it's kind of what we had talked about with Liz is she's very like open and vulnerable and very forward with her feelings. And I feel like Logan is kind of the opposite because she is the baby sister, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So right, she like
now.
Yeah. She like she's trying to be tough and she is strong, but she's like trying to prove to her big brother that she's tough. So it's very guarded and a little bit more sarcastic and a little more like defensive, and like it felt like Liz was very open, and that was kind of why she got picked and why this all happened and why she was like, she didn't fight harder for what she wanted because she was like trying to be so giving and accept and like all of that. And then Logan felt very like, I think it also helped to make her feel younger, was a little bit more of that, like, you don't even get it kind of.
A little bit of angst, yeah. And I think it plays really well. I think that, you and Matt Pearl did a really good job, because we also, in this one, is the opposite of like Liz and, Stuart's character. I think his character was Brad in the Echoes of Evil. Can't really remember. We have so many characters. But they were very loving right off the bat, and you're like, oh, these people care about each other. For the Shapeshifter movie, it's the complete opposite. Because I'm always trying to like play around different dynamics, right? I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. And for me to just do couples over and over and over again is boring. So I'm like, all right, let's see if we can try and make two people that like don't really like each other very much, that are blaming them for their missing father. And at the end of the movie, we can make people like them, because essentially they go and like help each other basically survive to an extent in the movie. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Did you have any like takeaways working on a second time on the Shapeshifter movie, other than you're just kind of throwing ideas out there, or just like anything on the communication style that was just a little bit different?
Yeah, I think like it was easier to not take things so um to heart. Like in Echoes, I was very much like they're like trying to be nice, so, like that I feel good and I can do the thing, and they're like they're just being that, and like I bet they say this to everyone, and like I don't like once that you guys have asked me back, I was like, okay, so they do think I'm good enough to be here, and like I'm an okay actor, and like it just gave me more of the confidence to like kind of do what I'm gonna do, and you don't give a lot of notes, which is great, fine. Now that we've found this like ease, but I guess I also know if it's not something you like, we're just gonna like take it again, like, and then just yeah, to try new things and like kind of it feels like there's no like wrong answers, just as long as you're giving multiple answers, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is no wrong answer. I just have to make a decision to keep the ship moving forward at some point.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about shooting in the woods. How did you like shooting in the woods as opposed to, shooting in the house? Specifically, we were shooting in Cherry Log, Georgia, which is almost at a 90-degree, 45-degree angle of the hill. And it is a very scary woods. And, it was interesting to be out there. What were your thoughts on going in the woods? And do you have any tips for actors that are going to do wood stuff?
Yeah. Don't. I mean, I was spoiled because the one before Echoes was Bigfoot, where y'all were in the forest for the whole shoot. And I had like, maybe a night and a half, 2 nights in the forest, and I was like, I don't love this. It was fun. It was a little creepy, a little scary, because there's like one point where Brendan was like, okay, I just need you to walk into the pitch black forest and I'll yell. And I was like, you have to please say psych. And he wasn't. And I'm wearing a body mic. And so I'm walking and I'm like, Brendan, I'm stuck. Come on. We're like, keep going. Like, it was fine. It was cool. Like, they found good open areas and it's like well lit when we're not actively shooting. And they have some like tarpy things down for when you have to like lay on the ground. But it was definitely a little bit more outside of my comfort zone. But it was still very fun, and they made it cool, and like there were plenty of people around. You were never like alone in the woods, and it was just very different. I've never really shot even like outside really. So it was all a lot, and you just got to say yes and like keep going and say your line.
And I mean, I'll tell you, Grace is like really cool. There was no complaints ever from Grace. Which is one of the reasons I always bring her back is, I think she will tell me if something is bothering her, but for the most part, like the small stuff, just put the fries in the bag and she does it. It's just fantastic. And I don't think you've ever complained at anything. You just like, okay, I'll do it. And that's honestly like, that's a very valuable, trait that you have. You're always cool. You always keep the vibes. I don't think I've ever seen you upset, honestly. You're always like dancing around, doing fun stuff. So that set was much smoother. Like we learned from Echoes, and I think we wrapped at like 2 a.m, which is early. But did you have anything that maybe I'm missing as far as like the difference between those two sets? Or did you just feel like you had more time on Shapeshifter to kind of, get to where you wanted to go?
I think so, yeah. And I think the comfortability of like knowing y'all a little more time with the script. And then I think for Echoes, I was always nervous before I had gotten in demon makeup and shot it. Like I didn't know quite what it was or what you were going to want from me or if I could give you what you want. Like I still had that fear that we were going to get on set in the makeup and I just like wouldn't be able to deliver because I wasn't like exactly sure what you wanted me to deliver. And so right, without all that, like I went into the set knowing like pretty confidently everything in this, I feel confident I'm going to be able to do it. I think the biggest like left field was that torch, which
yeah,
I think it worked out because I was supposed to be scared because I was scared of that torch.
The torch actually looks really good. And just so guys, to give you an idea, we had a torch scene, and the way we do torches is we wrap it in baby oil. If you guys have ever done it when you have kids, if you put like the baby oil on you and you light it, it doesn't burn you because it just burns the baby oil. It's how we do our torches. They are like, unless you're sticking it in your eye, it's super safe. But obviously, comfort is always number one, and we want to make sure Grace is, because you're still holding a torch. It is a fire thing, even if it's long in a way. But yeah, Grace is a little hesitant in there, and I would have scrapped the torch. If Grace is like, I don't want to touch this torch, we had Dylan like putting it to his arm, basically. That's Dylan. That wasn't me. He was doing that by himself. To show that, that it is safe. But if she would have said, hey, I don't want to do this, we would have done something else. Could have easily done a flashlight, but the torch looks great. And the fact that you are a little bit hesitant because you are surrounded by shapeshifters at that time plays. It's fantastic. So that's just something, being cool as well. But, obviously comfort's number one. When I saw that you were like a little bit hesitant, I was like, all right, do you really want to do this? And you're like, I'll give it a shot. And I think you kind of saw that, all right, it's okay. It's good to go. So that was a shapeshifter movie. We'll quickly go into Devil's Hostage because we had this script and we needed a demon girl. And this is kind of a crazy story of how these things get together. We needed a demon in this movie. And at this point, Grace was not on my radar. Because I was like, all right, we've done 2 with Grace. Let's try and find, this is an easy role where I just need somebody to be able to put on the demon makeup and run around. As we're writing the script, as I'm talking to distribution, as we're talking to our producers reps, they're like, well, maybe the demon girl should talk, and maybe we should have this little twist in here, and maybe we should have like all this stuff, kind of go in there dialogue wise. I'm like, oh my goodness, like all of this sudden, like this is kind of crazy. And that's where I wrote basically the end of this movie where the demon talks to the main character, and I really love it. And I wrote it and I was like, oh my God, this has to be Grace. And so I think I messaged you maybe 2 or 3 weeks before we shot, because we were doing the auditions for the demon chick, and this character is just evolving. I'm like, I don't trust a random person to do this, because if they suck, the movie's gone. I was like, I need somebody who can do this, who's played it before, and also understands what the 3 or 4 hours of makeup is. So what's it like getting an email 3 weeks before shooting and being like, hey, because literally my emails to Grace are like, hey, you want to be in a movie? Right. So what was your thought process there? And then kind of going through the script for that movie.
Right. At first I was like, yes, oh, they really do love me. Thank God. Which was great. But then I was like, it was weird because it was right over my brother's wedding. Oh, yeah. And I was in it, and also my brother's, I was like, I'm like so sorry. Like, I can't, like, I'm not missing this. I'm really sorry. And then they were like, well, what we like, after you can fly down and we'll do your scenes just very end and we'll flip flop the schedule and like make it work. And I was like, okay, like, great. And then, right, we had a lot of pre-production meetings, and I can't remember if we were like, decidedly like, let's do something way different, or we were like, let's do something different, but also let's try a little of like Echoes of Evil, just see like what kind of sticks. Because at that point, I don't think we had said it's like a sequel. I don't know if we're still saying that, like, yeah, technically. Okay, cinematic universe sequel type.
Yeah, and this is another crazy story, is that I needed a pitch to distribution to bring Grace back. And it's like 4 in a row. And I'm like, I've used all my cards, or 3 in a row. I've used all my cards in the last 2. So I was like, hey, it'd be really cool is if we kind of made this like the Conjuring universe, or like where all these movies are kind of like tied together. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I can get the demon chick from Echoes to play this one, and then we can use the Dybbuk box in the movie, and then it becomes like a prequel. Or I think this would be a sequel. It'd be a sequel to Echoes of Evil. And they're like, oh, we love it. Because at this point, we have a decent cut of Echoes, and it's going like gangbusters. Like, people are like, this is incredible. They're like, let's ramp up like what we're trying to do with this. I'm like, if Echoes does really well, I can tie this in. And I was like, this will be good for us. I need Grace though. And they're like, all right, let's do it. And that's kind of like how it happened. Now, my direction to Grace was, I want something different than, you know, that one, because I just don't want the same thing. But Grace did the same thing, and it's fantastic. And it's still, once again, better than what I had. And I think we just leaned into, the more I saw the little tie-ins that we had to Echoes, I just kind of leaned into it. And I think it's a much better product. But I mean, I could have been stubborn. I could have been like, no, it's my idea, it's my way or the highway. And I don't think we would have had a good product. But I do want to talk to you a little bit, Grace, because you're like, if you go back and you look at the first draft of the script to what we had and how much we added to your character, this is by far your best pre-production work ever. Probably some of the best pre-production work I've had of any actress, and you had a side role. Go into just sending me all these, and like, it also allowed me to figure out the best way I operate is just to have the actors send me just info dumps of information, which is also kind of weirdly how I operate, where I'll just dump like I'll have like, for this movie, I had like demon lore, and it was just 6 or 7 pages of all the stuff and the rules of the world and everything that the demon needed to do. And Grace kind of does that too, but go into how you really, I mean, you did the best pre-production work ever. What was the mindset with this one and kind of looking at this character? Was there anything different? Did you just really like this character? Or was it just like the third time is just like, I know this guy, I know what he's looking for. Here's as much information as possible.
I guess a little bit. And it was like really fun to research, but I think I went back to being kind of nervous because I wasn't sure if I could deliver a demon. And then I did, and y'all liked it. Like, awesome. But now you're saying, like, I want a 1/8. I want a different demon. Now I'm back to, like, I don't watch this stuff. I don't really know exactly what this is. If I'm going to be able to do someone who's, like, very, like, serious, like, we were doing, like, a business-oriented demon. Like, this is how it is. ABC, you're going to open the door and you're going to let me out of here. And so I was trying to figure out, I guess, like you said, yeah, all the rules. So I was reading like Bible verses and like old tomes on witchcraft, and I wrote Brendan the next great American novel in like emails that just, and then I would look, and it's been like 3 hours, and I've been just typing an email to Brendan for 3 hours, and I'm sourcing my notes, and I'm like, yes, exactly, because then the demon's in this one, and like, I was like sending him Bible, and I was like, what if I actually quote the Bible verse in it, or like while I'm stalking that, like, so I just kind of like, there's just so much out there that's like so cool, and I was trying to like, I think I was trying to find something to like anchor to like the reasons behind this like structured demon. Like, if there's rules for the demon, I get like the business part of it more, because demon to me feels like a very emotional thing, but you wanted like not very emotional, and so I was trying to research my way into doing it right.
And you can see a lot of the stuff that she sent me, even just for her character, ends up in the script. There's multiple stuff in that script that I've taken that wasn't even relevant to her character that I just used for the mom character. A lot of that stuff is in there. For when she initially gets kidnapped, a lot of that stuff is in there. And then the ending, a lot of that stuff is in there. So a lot of this script has Grace's like love language in there. And she was a side character, which is crazy. And it really helps me out because that stuff is super valuable. And I know we had a lot of, pre-production about talking about this stuff. But the way you played it, because I did want it to be business oriented, and it did come out a little bit business oriented, but it wasn't coming from business as in like a business meeting, how I originally kind of wanted it, because the demon is trying to make a transaction. And the way that she played it was a blend of echoes of evil, but it wants something, and it wants something bad. And it's just this, because we have poor Madison just covered in blood, and she's sitting like against this wall, and you're crawling towards her in this crazy makeup, and it's a monologue. Like, that's what I was watching. I was like, this is like a 2-minute monologue of you explaining everything we've done and trying to get something from her. And it was just really, really cool to see you do that. So what was going through your mind when you're doing that? Did you just kind of like let it go, or like, because it was a crazy scene?
Yeah, I think like I kind of let it go, and I was a little, because I think that was like the final thing y'all shot like for the whole movie. Mm-hmm. So I think Brendan was like a little cooked. He was like, So I wasn't getting any feedback, which, right, I was like, I had been back to confident, and now I'm back to my like a demon again. And I was like, did you hate it? Oh my God. And so I was like, just, okay, we got to go. Like, we simply must get this shot. Try it again. Yeah, it was very, I don't know. It just felt cooler. I think, I'm not quite sure. It just kind of happened. I think like, right, I wasn't used to like doing a monologue. So kind of that, and monologues are more that like what we study in school instead of like improving a horror scene. So it felt easier for me to find like you're supposed to like find your ups and downs and like my intention, and I like this whole time, what do I want from you? So it can all be, I guess, like what we talked, it's all active. It's all like, it's about Madison. It's not even about me. It's about you. And like, you have to help me. Yeah, I guess.
I mean, the minute that you put the makeup on and we did like a regular, just a test take, I was like, this is it. Like, this is absolutely fantastic. I was like, there is no notes. This is absolute cinema. I mean, it was so good. I just didn't realize how much of a monologue it really was. And Madison does say some things, but I don't know if we're really going to use them in the edit, because her just being so overwhelmed with everything and her facial expressions just covered in blood after all this crazy stuff happened, and you're just like right next to her face, is absolutely fantastic. And it was just a really cool, I'm so happy you were there. Grace comes in, works one day, then does a rap party. The life of an actor.
That's how you do it.
But no, I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. And Grace, I just told her that she's going to be in the 4th movie, so she'll be 4 in a row. DBS fashion, I told her before we started the podcast. But I think, just kind of looking back on this stuff, I think communication's key, always, through everything. And I think Grace just does a really good job of doing pre-production. She's one of my favorite people to do pre-production with. She gives me a ton of information, a ton of stuff to kind of go over and look over, a lot of really good ideas. And she's extremely talented. So Grace, before we sign off, any advice to younger actors, newer actors, or people looking to get into the acting business?
Yeah, totally. Just, I think, have fun, obviously. But just like, don't be afraid to look a little stupid. Like, be silly and be weird and put yourself out there, because that's like what everything is about ever. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to go about acting and life in a way that I'll never look back and be like, God, I wish I went harder. I wish I committed. Like, it might be a little embarrassing, but I'm going to commit like 100%. And like, if it sucks or I look cringy, like, oh man, like, but at least I gave it 100%. And I'm not looking back being like, nah, I should have done this, or I should have, like, I put it out there, good, bad, or otherwise. So it's just like, just have fun and like, don't worry about being stupid, because who cares,
And I think that's honestly the DBS motto. I mean, if you're going to do filmmaking, if you're going to do all this stuff, you're going to get a little crazy. You're going to get a little weird. It's okay. And I think nobody judges. Like, number one, I've been around Dylan Tegan, and I'm living with myself for multiple years. We're all weird, man. It's all what it is. And I think the sooner you embrace it, the better. I think you'll get more of that creative juice going, especially when it's 5 a.m. and we're all jacked up on Celsius and caffeine pills. And honestly, that's when the real creative juices start flowing. That's when Sherry Lady starts getting played.
Whoa.
We all get a little weird. But Grace, thank you so much. You are an absolute star. One of my favorite people to work with. I always want to have you back. I think Echoes is going to be a huge jump up for DBS. So I'm forever grateful for you to come on there and just being really cool in general. You are my beer pong partner on the DBS Olympics. So I really think that's really cool. And then just to wrap this one up, guys, communication's key. Just talk to your actors, do as much pre-production you possibly can. Scheduling's another big thing. Really make sure if you're going to get a lot of prosthetics and makeup done, you give it its time, because it is very important. It's very easy to kind of lose hours, but for the most part, Give your actors freedom, because you'll find one like Grace who just gives you great ideas all the time that are better than my ideas. And then when the movie comes out, I could claim that they were my ideas. But no, Grace is absolutely fantastic. I look forward to seeing all your movies with DBS and your other future products or projects that you're doing. So we're going to end it there, guys. Good night. Watch all our movies. Last Cabin is coming out on Tubi, and I'm trying to see what day we're going to release this. September 12th. Please watch Last Cabin. It is the #1 horror movie on Amazon Prime. It's about to get defeated, but it will be the #1 movie, horror movie on Tubi if you guys watch it. Also, all our stuff is now on YouTube channel for free. If you can go back and look at our old stuff to see how far we've come. Any watch, review, anything just really helps us out. And once again, guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. See you.
Bye.